Also, we have Dr. Shafi Ahmed. Shafi is a surgeon. Many of you have been meeting him over the course of the last day or two. He's a teacher, he's a futurist, innovator, an entrepreneur, and an evangelist in the area of augmented and virtual reality. He's a highly respected colorectal and laparoscopic surgeon trained in England, has embraced digital technology, has multiple TED Talks to his name. He performed the first virtual reality surgery in the world with several thousand people watching him, and it's an honor for him to have him join us.
Okay, thank you very much. Stefano, thank you very much for inviting me. On the fourth kind of occasion, he kept asking. In the end, I relented to come to San Francisco. Thank you very much. Wonderful occasion. Great conference, by the way. Congratulations. And great to be with colleagues and friends in this kind of world that we live in med tech and kind of VR. So, yeah, they call me the virtual surgeon, and I'll explain why in a moment as we go through this presentation. Now, as I was flying on the plane over, I was reading a book by a colleague of mine who's just resigned from his post, having spent years working in obs and gynae. And you can see the reputation of orthopaedic surgeons in the UK isn't great, as you can see from this quote. And actually, the last person you want to be speaking to as an orthopaedic surgeon is a colorectal surgeon. Yes? It means you're in big trouble, generally, that something's gone wrong, the wire's in the wrong place, but thankfully it hasn't happened too many times in my career so far. A bit of history about where I am. So this is the hospital that I kind of work in, and it's Barts, and we've been around for about 900 years. So therefore we're in a hospital that's been around for a long time, trying to move things on. Some of you may know some of our famous surgeons. James Paget was one of them. Abraham Collies, lots of famous surgeons in the orthopaedic field were actually from St Bart's Hospital in the back end. The irony, of course, that we're moving on. We're innovating. We're doing things differently in our kind of medical school and our hospital. And one of the things I've been struggling with, and I'll share this with you very quickly, is about how we redesign the future of healthcare. How do we create medical students, and how do we create them to think differently in terms of the future tech, and how do they become what I call the connected doctor or the digital doctor? We've got a kind of big role here to play about how do we change the next generation. So I ran the first program last year as a pilot, and this year we're the first medical school in the world to introduce entrepreneurship, innovation, future tech into the curriculum for every medical student. That's a big game changer. And we've got a fantastic faculty. Daniel, in fact, came on Tuesday and gave a keynote at our medical school to our medical students to show the case this is the future that we need to redesign. And maybe UCSF needs to do the same thing because you are part of that kind of community. And our entrepreneurs, our first batch already went to a Dragon's Den, did a pitch, unusual. And the winners in medical school got a 3-month placement at a tech company. This is the kind of doctors we need in the future, who are nimble in thought, who are flexible, who can change healthcare and make it more efficient and plausible. Of course, it's change. We think about the past and the kind of way we interact with patients. That's all changing. AI interface, chatbots. We're now looking at telemedicine, teleplatforms, and out there, many inferences of where we're going to be in the future, how we're going to connect with doctors in the future. Carl Schwab talks about this fourth industrial revolution, the impact of the changing world and all the kind of technologies together impacting the world. And in medicine, it's more than relevant. All these techs are beginning to come together to merge and become one, and we're changing the face of medical health care. What I talk about a lot of time is about connectivity. I do a lot of global work. And what we're helping with is connecting the world in terms of the 3G, 4G and Wi-Fi connection. This, of course, Google Loop. This is the kind of balloons in the air that are going to give Wi-Fi access. And Puerto Rico was highlighted recently with the hurricane and everything else about how do we connect people. Facebook with the Project Loom, with the Project Aquila, with the drone flying at 70,000 feet, using solar panels, giving Wi-Fi access. We're connecting the world. And all of us as doctors, as physicians, as clinicians, we've got to think about how do we impact that world in a better way. I've been around for a long time. I'm started thinking about how do I globalize health? And AR VR is going to be one of the solutions to that problem. There's a pipe now just being placed from North America to Portugal about a month ago. This is going to give, again, high-speed access for our thirst and sort of for AR and VR and connectivity. VR is great at the moment. I was a bit worried about a year ago, but now recently, all the big companies coming with their new headsets. Lenovo, Microsoft with tethered headsets, untethered headsets. We've got all these things going on at the moment. And there's huge interest in the world of VR at the moment, which I think we should be using. And this year will be the year of the content, no question. Hardware's been out there. We need to drive the content in healthcare to make it equitable. AR itself is moving on. ARKit came out last year for Apple. That's a game changer. Google have abandoned their Project Tango, put money behind AR Core. in competition with AR kit. Suddenly, AR is going to be mainstream in every phone in every part of the world through Android and iOS. We've all seen, finally, we see a picture of Magic Leap, right? We'll see what happens this year as it comes out. It promises much in terms of mixed reality. So AR, VR, mixed reality are now really in vogue. And this year, we're going to see a huge expansion. I do a lot of global health work. I'm a philanthropist, so I do work around the world and try to raise standards of surgical education and training. About 3 years ago, I sat in the audience at Royal Society of Medicine in London, where they came up with this whole kind of paper around inequalities of health. The first time surgery was highlighted as being a problem. 5 billion people, that's 2/3 of the population, we have 7 billion people on the planet, do not have access to safe and affordable surgery. We have to train another million surgeons today to make healthcare more fair, and we have to perform about 146 million operations per year, just to offer the population of the world accessible healthcare. These are operations like appendicitis, appendectomy, cesarean sections, and management of fractures, which causes enormous amount of morbidity and mortality. If we get that right, we'll save many more lives than all the lives combined saved by TB, HIV, etc., etc. So this is a kind of game changer. And equalities of health are not unusual. The red marker, as you see, shows the healthcare that's been poorly served. So what do? We connected people, we've got new devices coming out, what do we do? So AR. So Google asked, could we consider about AI? It came out in 2014, and I did a kind of first operation using Google Glass back then. I was a bit perturbed by my teaching at medical school. We sit in the operating theatre every day. We have hundreds of medical students coming in and out, most on the back of the room, on their phone, on Snapchat, on Facebook, all right? They're not talking to you, being ignored. And we've thought for hundreds of years this is okay. They're learning by this process of diffusion and osmosis, just by being in the presence of greatness. And it's true. So this is what we've accepted. I said, no, that's not good enough. They are paying a lot of money for their education. How do we teach them better? So we set the Google Glass 2014. We live streamed operations through my eyes. People on their smartphones around the world could watch it. They could type a message. The message would come up on the glass. I could answer at the same time. In real time, I taught 14,000 people in 118 countries. Just showing the power of simple connection and simple wearable technology. We created a whole platform around wearables 3 years ago, and you could access the live feed, you could have a chat box, suddenly connect to the world and teach people on a global scale. It's scaling up education level it's never been done before. AI itself is moving on. We're now going to be able to plan operations before, peroperatively or intraoperative. Great for orthopaedics, or great for neurosurgery, where things are more static, more difficult in the abdomen. But we're going to get there. We're going to be able to overlay information on top of patients as we operate. It's great for the interns who can't cannulate ever. They can now see the veins and pop a cannula in straight away. That's the real use of ER, I think. But about social media. Sadly, I have an addiction to social media, like all of us. I'm a bit old for social media, but I've sort of caught onto it. Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter. Why am I mentioning these things? They're powerful mediums. They have enormous reach. Facebook has 2 billion users on a daily basis. Can you imagine? 2 billion people. Snapchat has 175 million. Twitter has 300 million, as does Instagram. But actually, you know what? They're AR devices. Snapchat was the most powerful AR platform without realizing. The overlays, the selfies, the kind of pictures you see. Absolutely. So I've taught people using Facebook in Bangladesh. I taught 10,000 people in a single click on Facebook Live using the AR platform. Snapchat. You must have heard a story about Snapchat. I got spectacles about a year ago. And in fact, what I did with that, I thought, let's see if I can teach a Snapchat operation. Now, most of you in this room don't have Snapchat. You're too old, sadly. It's true. 75% of users up to the ages of 17 and 25. That's not you, but it's the age of your medical students and trainees. You might as well adjust to their kind of life. So I thought, let's see if I can teach people on Snapchat. I did this last year, November.
An inguinal hernia repair in about half an hour or so, using the spectacles and live on.
Yes, I look stupid. So this is the anatomy, anterior spine, symphysis pubis, pubic tubercle. This was a simple hernia operation, nothing difficult. And it went viral. I thought I'd just aim it for a small amount of people. Typing up the story, took with it, it went everywhere. And I've been quite fortunate. I've been in most magazines, newspapers and TV around the world. The one I'm most proud of is that I was in Cosmopolitan with my hernia operation. You can't beat that, right? I can retire in peace, having made to Cosmo. And I have famous friends. Ashton Kutcher, yeah, I said, wow, Ashton Kutcher on his Facebook page. And actually, it wasn't about that. It was about connecting people. Look at the figures on the right-hand side. 2 million views of that one operation. Nothing difficult. It was simple Snapchat on your story. 100,000 downloads on YouTube in 24 hours. Every time I operate now, and I do a Snapchat operation, augmented reality platform, I push out to my Snapchat 5,000 students I have every time. They engage from all over the world. It's incredible, the reach that you have with young people using a simple platform. We looked at the graphics of that operation back in November, the first one we did, to see how many people were tweeting about this operation in 1 month. 56 million people were tweeting that operation because it's reaching around the world. So this is the kind of way we can teach people on a global scale. And then one of the days about a few months ago, I said to my audience, because you don't know where they're coming from on Twitter, so, on Snapchat, I said, who are you, where are you watching it from? I don't know who you are, because you're interacting with me. And then one girl replied, they all replied back from all over the world. One really touched me. She said, hi, my name's Ella. I'm watching you, I'm a medical student, 3rd year, and I'm watching you from the Marianas Islands in the Pacific. So where's that? So I Googled it. I was sweeping through Google Maps. Finally found the island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It had 12,500 people. And she was watching it from there, being trained by someone in London. And that's the kind of reach that's quite touching, isn't it? Using a simple kind of AR device. I also did the first world's Twitter operation through NHS. I ran the account for a whole week. I ran the whole NHS account for the health service. And I thought I'd run the whole account and do a live Twitter operation. And I won't show the whole thing, we haven't got time, but if you go into my moments on NHS account, you see how we live tweet an operation and got 1 million people, public and kind of students, engaging in a new way of teaching and training. We have to be open. We have to be more, I guess, responsible. I don't think we should keep surgery's mystique and kind of behind closed doors. We need to be more transparent. These are the kind of things that are going to help us in the future. So we talk about kind of telemedicine where we like remote, Snapchat and Google Glass. What about if you bring the person to you in VR? So we did the world's first 360 operation 3 years ago. We actually created our own rig of GoPro rigs. We 3D printed a kind of scaffold to get them together. And we moved that on a few years later. And we did the first VR operation back in 2016. My hospital, Barts Health, is the biggest trust in the UK. Yeah, huge hospital. I persuaded them to buy everyone a headset, a Google Cardboard. We actually broke as a hospital. And that's probably why we're broke, because they bought headsets for every person in their hospital. And in fact, what they did, we did a live stream from the operating theatre at Royal London in 2016. That operation was watched by 55,000 people in 142 countries, and it went viral. And Daniel was in the audience with me on that day.
This 360 camera rig allows immersion. People around the world using a low-cost technology, a simple VR headset, can actually immerse themselves in operating theatre around the world.
So our team have now gone away and produced the world's first VR learning platform in VR. And this is it. Hard 2 years about what creates good learning in VR. It's not about 360, it's about the whole learning environment, which we've now validated over the last couple of years. So please do download it and try it out. VR, of course, has also been shown good in therapy, therapeutic VR. And Brendan Spiegel, who works around in LA, has done a lot of good work around the kind of the therapeutic use of VR. And this is great, this picture showing how you can create a game using a snowman, throwing balls and trying to avoid them, which actually reduce the pain requirement and reduce the requirements of a patient, a young child who's undergoing kind of dressing change for burns. So actually, it's simple. We've been shown now it's been useful in phobias, obsessive compulsive disorders, and many other kind of neurological problems. And now papers are being produced regularly on the impact of VR. It's taken a few years. That some therapeutic VR is becoming vogue and actually is going to be useful in the long term. It's not just about training education. It's been shown to be used in phobias, also in post-traumatic stress disorders. The American military, when they come back from wars and things, or from military duty, go through a bout of training in PTSD, so that the VR helps them overcome that kind of fear. And of course, pain requirement is going to change with the use of VR in certain situations. It's also becoming a standard for training, as we discussed before. You can plan things. Neurosurgery lends itself well in that fold. And of course, Justin Barrard is back in the audience with his great company at the back, which is fantastic, by the way. You should try nailing something in the kind of tibia and things. Great work. Simulation is going to change. Simulation is going to be in VR and AI. It's going to move on. Current systems we use for simulation are obsolete. They're archaic. We have machines in our hospital, £100,000 we pay for them, gathering dust in the corner. No one uses them. They're not fit for purpose, always. So therefore, we've got to move on to a low-cost alternative, and VR offers that kind of opportunity. The thing, of course, about VR is that we've got to replace the CGI with real images. CGI is a bit cartoonish. We're not there yet, and I'll show you in a minute what we're going to do with that. We've also got to create haptic feedback that's relevant, that be able to feel and touch in that space. We haven't quite got that yet. We've got the controllers, they don't give you enough information. That, in the next 2 to 5 years, will develop. We get to a stage where we can now use machines like this and gloves like this, which can feel touch, hot, cold, temperature, feel of rough and smooth. Suddenly, we change the way we train people in the future. Education will change enormously. All these devices are coming together. Undergraduate medicine will change enormously. There'll be no cadavers. Okay, there'll be no cadaver teaching soon. Already, some medical schools in the US, within 2 or 3 years, will abandon cadaveric teaching and go on to AR and VR equivalents. Because actually, cadavers are difficult to get hold of, and actually AR and VR offer an alternative to teaching in terms of anatomical knowledge. And these are just some of the examples that we're now seeing coming through the system. Let's go into robotics very quickly. I think, why am I talking about robotics? So I attended Daniel, we had a conversation about this. 2018 is the year of the robot wars. That's what I call it, because all the companies now are clamoring to create a surgical robot. Verb, this is the Johnson & Johnson / Google collaboration with Verily. CMR, Cambridge Medical Robotics from the UK, produced a new, smallest robot in the world, very nimble. You've got Transenteric, which has got FDA approval last year, and implemented in Florida already. This is an augmented reality surgical robot. Intuitive are going to upgrade their system as they go on, and there are others. There's Medtronic, and 2 more from China that we haven't heard about. So suddenly, all these augmented kind of platform robotics are coming into general surgery and orthopedics soon. What about this whole social interaction I was talking about at the beginning, this whole doctor-patient relationship changing? VR might be a way of communicating. We need to replace the person with an image that reflects their image, with an avatar maybe. And in this case, you can reflect people's with an inward camera. You can reflect the presence of a person, smiling, feeling, whatever. Suddenly, communication will change in AR and VR. So this is the ultimate selfie, of course. This is me being videoed, well, actually shot on the camera, about 104 cameras. These are Nikon cameras creating a photogrammetric image of me. This is how we can replace that horrible kind of CG animation in VR with real images, real capture, so it feels realistic and rather cartoonish. That will change. So I did become the world's first virtual surgeon. That's me, the virtual surgeon. Imagine if you train that person in AI. He moves like me, like in the CGI graphics you see on the programs on TV. Then suddenly you can interrogate that, and that will become your kind of avatar and teaching role model. And you can teach everybody together. That's the kind of thing we're heading towards in the future.
So we've now entered the virtual space with my colleagues from around the world to discuss a case which is going on behind me in theatres, get some real-time advice about the case. So we'd like to introduce you to the people from around the world. So in front of me, tell me about yourself and who are you, where you're watching from?
Hey, this is Ian. I'm here in downtown Atlanta, Georgia. I'm one of the creators of Thrive. Pleasure to be here today.
Thank you for joining us from the US. Shailash.
Hi, this is Professor Shailesh Srikhande. I'm the Chief of GI and HPB Cancer Surgery at the Tata Memorial in Mumbai in India.
Thank you very much for joining us on this special occasion. And Hitesh Patel.
Hi, I'm Hitesh Patel. I'm a consultant colorectal surgeon, and I'm joining you from the London Independent Hospital.
So we have 4 people in 4 different places across 3 continents trying to connect together to discuss a case in real time. This is going to change the way we sort of manage our patients and also how we train and teach in the future. So first of all, thanks for joining us, everybody. I'm just going to go to the patient's record. I'm just going to just open up the file. And we'll see, I'll give you a quick discussion. This is a patient who is just over 80 years of age, who presented with anemia and was found to have a lesion in the sort of right colon on colonoscopy. That's a pelvic model. We're going to get the scans all out here, and then we're just going to just move up to the next scan here, and also the endoscopy report. So, Professor Shailash, would you mind just talk to me about the case and what your thoughts are about how we should manage this patient?
Sure. To me, this looks like a lesion in the right colon if I see the CT scan image, but of course I also see the colonoscopy image now. Yeah, so we are dealing with an adenocarcinoma.
You get the message. Ultimately, when we innovate, when we're trying to push the boundary in healthcare, we forget one kind of people in this audience, that's the patients. And actually, maybe next year we could have more patient perspective on healthcare in the future. These are the kind of patients that support us in healthcare. We have to drive innovation. Ultimately, it's a kind of a journey we go through with hospitals, with kind of our general public, but also the patients who have to be the most important part of any innovation in healthcare. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks. I think bring up Paul and we'll have a chance to have a little discussion and open up to everybody here as well. So fantastic, Shafi. Tour de force, as mentioned, I was lucky enough to be in the operating room about 20 months ago when you did that live-streamed surgery to 5,000 people. What were some of the lessons that you took away? I mean, it's one thing to watch a surgery in VR, but what did the medical students take away from that experience? And do you think, can you measure that difference in terms of globalizing education?
So when we set out to do this, we felt that to democratize education, you had to have kind of high fidelity technology, but at low cost. So therefore it had to be a smartphone and a Google Cardboard to showcase that for $5 you could actually train anybody around the world. That's the kind of message we're trying to put across. It worked well, so the students really felt empowered, felt they could actually put this headset on and be immersed in the operating theatre near me, and they don't often get a chance to do that in the operating theatre. So it certainly worked well, and the kind of feedback we've got was overwhelmingly very supportive. And the Google Cardboard has its problems. It's not perfect visually. I think the Gear VR is much, much better, as is the Google Daydream. So we need to kind of move on. Probably going to have going forward, Daniel, in VR is how do you adopt this kind of learning, which means that students and people around the world have to purchase a headset. And that's going to be the kind of problem we're dealing with. Until the smartphone companies give away a free headset with every phone, then the adoption won't be as great as we want it to be.
Right. And so for Paul, Samsung's been a leader in commercializing, these amazing exponential technologies. We're only, 10 and a half years into the smartphone era. There's that famous Bill Gates quote, we overestimate what happened in a year, underestimate what happened in a decade. Yeah. And even if you went back 10 years and used the early Samsungs or iPhones, they'd feel antique. Where on your curve do you see these things going in the next 2 to 5 years, and how might that play into the health space?
I think there's a talk amongst the VR communities right now that we're in a trough of disappointment. John, the CEO of...
This is the Gartner's hype cycle where we...
Exactly. That's where we're at. And it definitely feels like it too. But we're... as a company, we're happy that we've been able to kind of, get this VR headset somewhat, much better than cardboard to the mass audience in the 7 figures. 5-7 million units, and at least 1 million being used actively on a monthly basis. Still very, very small compared to, these devices. Like I said, it's the VR is still very exotic. And I think it'll take a few more cycles until we get to a point where, wearing a headset in a lobby is not going to be
And you know, Shafi, you mentioned this little patients included piece. What's exciting about VR, AR, blended reality, whatever it is, sort of crosses the spectrum from, you know, in healthcare, from education to simulation to collaboration to, crowdsourcing all these elements. Now that a consumer, not even a patient, can understand an orthopedic injury or their colon surgery ahead of time, or see proactively what's happening with their hypertension and the impact of the kidney. And it also blends with the education side. This can be kind of sexy and fun and be gamified. Both the surgeon and the patient, I don't know, for each of you, we've seen sort of the gamification piece. What incentivizes a patient and a clinician to use these when they're still sort of maybe not always perfect?
So I think in terms of, one of the great uses of VR, I think, that's been untapped is patient education. Because if you think about at the moment, when we talk to patients for an operation, either pre or post-op experience, we describe it, we may have a CD or a few pictures, but if you actually put it into the headset, and we've actually created a whole journey of a patient post-operatively at Harefield Hospital, at a cardiac centre, to showcase the journey from the operating theatre to the operating theatre and back, what's going to happen afterwards, so they really get engaged and informed. And I think patient education will change with VR and be much more powerful because they'll see what's going on.
Yeah, my 14-year-old daughter just had an anterior cruciate ligament repair for a soccer injury, and it was still, even in a Stanford-based training center, the surgeon, who was a great surgeon, still sketching things out on a piece of paper on the table. So the ability to have a patient see their whole journey, and even in the hospital, pre-surgery, be in a VR environment to be de-stressed or help with the recovery, whether it's for pain or just, is going to be, I think, quite powerful. Samsung has been blending into other elements of healthcare. Do you see the components ever being customized?
That's a really good question. A couple of years ago, there was an inquiry. I believe it was the Department of Surgery or Urology at UCLA. The doctors were experimenting with pre-surgery visualization in VR. So they took, I believe, a bunch of CT scans, created a 3D model of it, and gave it to the doctors, so they knew exactly how big and the size of the tumor was, so that the surgeons can study it before basically opening up the patient, and they were able to, I believe, I mentioned a sizable reduction in clamp time, which obviously leads to faster recovery. I thought that was fascinating. Working with just entertainment content creators all day, it was rather refreshing. So I believe this was shortly after our corporate acquisition of I forget the name of the company, that we do have a division that works on basically X-ray machines, and there was some. I was basically nudging to see if we could integrate some of the solutions together. That basically provided a hospital with a complete end-to-end solution where the scans could turn into, basically loading up a model on a VR headset would be completely streamlined instead of having an animator create it and present it.
And on the gaming side, last year at this meeting, we had the lead for Pokemon Go, and I think the statistics were 4 billion more steps per walk with folks using the game than they would have otherwise. And you can imagine the future of orthopedics, where you send someone home after a total knee or hip or something else, is you're giving them a game to play and getting them engaged, and that might be a VR, AR type element. So Shafi, one of the most, I think, exciting pieces on the surgical, or in healthcare in general, I mean, the old way we trained was see one, do one, teach one, and now you might see one, sim one, sim one, and sim one, and then do one. And then you may end up in the era now where almost every case can be sort of telementored. And your platforms and others, some of the stuff from most of VR or the proximity folks, is going to enable you to, if you have a difficult case, you could port into the an island in the Pacific and help someone out, or you could be trained yourself from an expert around the world. Where do you see that at the cutting edge today, and where it might be in the next decade?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I'd add to that element you just said, that we've had this whole adage about see one, do one, teach one. Now it's see one, do one, teach one, and teach one in VR. So it's kind of additional kind of element to that. But actually, you're right. At the moment, with all these technologies, which are actually not that expensive, you can reach out very quickly to people around the globe. Very quickly, most people around the globe have a smartphone. It's almost ubiquitous. And actually, that kind of interface now will help you teach somebody across the globe. We've been obsessed with people going abroad to third world countries to help out, to support. I did a lot of that kind of work for the college. But actually, it's time inefficient. it's expensive taking people out from one place to the other. You don't help many people. The impact is quite minimal. You do it for a personal reward. Actually, these kind of technologies will allow you to help many people together by connecting, teaching, training, by a simple connection. And that's the kind of thing we're looking forward to in the future. And there's a number of companies now out there in the field. And it will be fairly soon before you can literally dial up someone on a smartphone through VR, AR, connect, teach. One thing that's come out this year is the whole thing about holoportation. So what I was showing you here at the moment is being transported through HoloLens using the avatar, blue avatar. Actually, this year, a company called WME are creating a software where you can actually transport yourself physically, i.e. in terms of your body self, to another part of the world, peer over the shoulder of a surgeon, teach them, train them, and then disappear again. That's the kind of change we're happening, which is going to democratize healthcare.
You might even teleport yourself inside the abdomen, right? So you talked about the future of robotics, the blending of, you may be literally operating the robotics through your motion and have a whole new view of what your operating arm is doing, and that applies into orthopedics
In fact, can we ask Samsung to create a really tiny 360 camera that we can put into someone's tummy, like the Fantastic Journey? And that would be great, right? So that's
We'll work on that.
So before let's open up to everybody here, but maybe any folks who are orthopedic surgeons in that field in general, what would be their first steps to start playing with this now? How can they help innovate, create, and catalyze this going forward? And what would be on your wish list for folks like Samsung to build in this new endeavor?
I think my suggestion is, currently, if I look at all the content that people watch on a VR headset today, it's about zombies in space, robots, dinosaurs. So you could probably skip some of those, there was one experience that I highly recommend. It's an art experience produced by a company called Boulevard. One particular experience called the Barmaid in Folies Bergère. It's a Manet painting interactive experience. And the reason why I mention that is because it had such an impact on me from an educational perspective. I'm not an art. I probably took a semester in art or history a long time ago, but it was probably the one experience where that allowed me the experience of presence in where the painting took place. And after that, subsequently, I still remember the barmaid from the painting handing me over an apple, which I thought was. That's when I realized that this could really be applied for learning, for experiential learning. So that's probably a good place to start.
Shafi, what would be your hook to get people in?
Yeah, so look, if you imagine our platform, Medical Realities, we've created it to be just a normal platform for anybody to use. What I wanted to do is let everybody around the world put a camera up, record, teach, train, and that becomes suddenly part of a training module. That's what we want to do with Medical Realities. And so I have a lot of people often see me and say, look, we love what you do, how do we do the same thing? How do we help people? It's really easy. The cost is becoming cheaper, cameras are becoming really quite cheap now and affordable, you record, and then you just upload onto platform. That's the way we're going to be democratizing and get everyone involved in education.
Yeah, actually, to that end, 4 years ago, in order to produce a 360 video and stream it, live stream it, it would have cost probably anywhere in the $20,000 to $30,000 per minute range. Now, you could get any one of those most consumer 360 cameras, hook it up to your phone, and broadcast it live in 2K or up to 4K resolution to Facebook and Facebook. That's extremely powerful, and that only took less than 2 generations to get there.
And we're moving from 3G to 4G, which won't be
5G
10 or 5G, which won't be 10 times as fast, but 100 times the speed. So we're going to have incredible data rates in the next 2 years or so. So let's open up to folks here. Questions over there. Yeah.
Just a quick question. Can we use this technology to look at systems and processes in the operating room for efficiency? So one of the things that I'm very interested in is having people view how an efficient operating room works, both the nurses, the sterile processing personnel, and everybody else. And has it been used for that, and can it be successfully employed, I guess?
So yes, the answer. So if you imagine what's happened before, people put cameras in the corner of the room, looked at how people perform the movements in the operating theatre. Actually, with 360, it's much easier. So we haven't looked at it specifically. We've got a lot of footage where you can analyse it quite simply and look at the interaction. And one thing about immersive learning that's better than 2D interface is that you see what's going on. You see how the team's evolving, how it's playing out. I remember most surgeons that are unsafe are actually because they don't communicate, or people in the operating theatre don't work well together as a team. It's not because the actual operation fails. So actually, this will allow you to analyse that in much more depth. And I think that's going to be one of the key elements going forward with this.
Today, your pilots get certified every 6 months. And yet our surgeons get their degree and they don't get certified for life. If I think about the board exams, where do you see this technology playing in certifying surgeons that they could perform these surgery in the future?
So the whole thing about recertification, revalidation is an interesting one. So in the UK, we now actually have to be revalidated every 5 years. It's changed about 3 or 4 years ago. So every 5 years we have to produce our data, you get revalidated on the 5 years, and you can breathe a sigh of relief, that kind of thing. But it's more on data, your outcomes, that kind of thing. We very rarely look at people in the OR and how they're performing an outcome. Yeah, it's difficult. So the one thing is about if you're analysed constantly, are you going to shake, make mistakes, who knows? The insurance companies often have in the past offered rewards for people who are happy to have the videos shown constantly and record patients' notes. You get 10% or 50% chance less kind of expenditure, kind of thing. So there's incentives been there before. They've never worked. So I'm not sure that's the answer. But there's no question that having 360 videos around, you can certainly see how the team's working. And when things go wrong, you can go back and do root cause analysis in a much better way.
And just like in the pilot world, we record, I spent years as a flight surgeon in the Air National Guard. You record your missions. You pre-brief, you fly, then you debrief, you watch the tapes. And now with AI machine learning going into video, you're going to be able to pull out where's the mistakes happening, doing sort of automated coaching, and then maybe even warning you in the middle of your case, just like the check engine light or the check fire light in the cockpit will. So I think the plan. Greg.
Question for Shafi. NHS is not known as a nimble bureaucracy necessarily. How are you able to essentially innovate in the midst of legacy interests that perhaps stand in the way of innovating at scale at a classic institution like yours?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. You're right, the NHS isn't nimble. There's a lot of bureaucracy, and most major companies and big tech companies actually run scared of the NHS because it's so difficult to manage. Having said that, in the last 2 or 3 years, there's been a gradual change. There's been a change in entrepreneurship innovation. There's now kind of innovation programs in NHS. There's NHS Digital, who are now a support structure to support innovation. And now it's kind of remunerated. So for the first time, if you had an app or something that would help patient care, and the NHS took it up, it'd be on a tariff. You'd get rewarded and paid for that. And that's the first time that's happened. The first 14 apps that have been paid for. I think the next 2 or 3 years, a whole change, and that would be much more easy. And my own hospital has been very supportive, and in fact, what they've said to me, and this is when you do these kind of innovations kind of things, you have to take that hospital on a journey with you. When I spoke to them about it, the first thing they didn't say was, let's think about it, let's get a group together. It means it's stifled, it's finished, right? They've said, great, good idea, we like it, how do we make it work? Let's get legal team very quickly. Let's get the risk analysis done very quickly for you. Let's move it on, because if you don't do it quickly, then you're obsolete before you know it. So they've been very supportive, but they mitigated risk as far as possible, which is all that you can do.
And one interesting story out of NHS, Surgeon Tony Young, head of NHS Innovation, came to our Exponential Medicine Conference for a few years, and from that started this Young Clinician Entrepreneur Program, of which has like 300 young docs who have now been building things and can leverage the NHS platform. Sometimes you can scale. So NHS is pretty impressive, and I imagine many of you have academic programs. How can you catalyze not just your residents and fellows, but folks who are in general faculty to take, whether it's a VR platform or 3D printing or other things that are being democratized to catalyze stuff? I think we have time for one more quick one, and we'll wrap. Burning questions? All right. Thanks, Stefano. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.